Six Sigma.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just basically upskilling for now.
All right. Okay. So that's good. Upskilling is very common these days, right? And with the rise of AI, programming skills is an absolute must, right? Like almost everyone has to learn how to code at least in one language. So that's good. Right. Thank you for that introduction. So last week, we were discussing the basics of Python, just the very basics, a few functions, and the theories on how to read the syntax, where to read them, what are the nuances when you're reading them, right? So, like I said before, if you've learned how to read one function, you can read all the other functions, right? Even if they are in different languages, once you know how the syntax works, right? It doesn't really differ that much from language to language. It's the same with how languages work in the real world, like English, Japanese, or even our language here in Philippines, Tagalog. So they all follow some kind of rules, right? And if you really think about it, almost all of them have the same um, principles and the same format in one way or another. So um, yeah, really, just like that, learning one language is like learning all of the rest. So when you try to read other codes in different languages, you can kind of see like, oh, okay, I kind of get what he's doing here. So you kind of get the logic, and you can sort of follow the discussion along on what they're trying to do, and that's the important part. Okay. What else did we discuss? We discussed a short bit about the history, um, different hardwares, softwares, the who discovered who, those things, right? And the LMS, we'll discuss that one as well. Oh, by the way, I hope you guys were able to access the LMS. So as I'm sharing my screen right now, this is the LMS. This is our page. So just go to your courses and then look for your batch 22. So there should be a recordings section, and then the topic. So introduction to Python and the PowerPoint associated to that topic. So what we discussed last week, you have access to that here, as well as the recording. So it took me a while to upload it because the this page was not created yet by the admin, right? And it also takes a while to upload it to YouTube. So YouTube is our official, like um, where we drop our videos, and then we just share them here via embedding. All right. So I just started today. We'll go through this weekend. Download the PowerPoint. I don't think we can download the PowerPoint. Like we want you guys to use the LMS, because from there you can also directly contact the admin. Like it's free forever. Like your access to this to these resources is free forever, and then that's why we're trying to push through the use of the LMS. So I'm not really sure if you can download, but um, I think if you really want to, you can find a way with it. Um, but yeah, that's it. Right. So let's see. So for Joker, since he's new, I hope you have like, or if you don't have one, review the session from last week. So you need to install Anaconda, um, and for you to follow along with the lesson. Okay, and as well as your own IDE. You can program things yourself. All right. So one thing that I always want to reiterate to my students is that programming is a skill. Okay, it's not something like a bicycle. Like once you've learned, you can just not practice it and you still know how. So it doesn't work that way. So Python programming itself is a skill. All right, and if you don't use it, you'll gradually lose it. All right, so yeah, you can take this course as sort of like your um, decision point in life, whether you want to go through with this or choose something else as a career, right? So yeah, that's just kind of my advice, right? Later on, I'll try to suggest to you things that you can do to maintain like um, the least amount of time while still being able to practice. So I'll teach you guys how I did it before when I was learning this myself, and it really helped me a lot in the beginning, like for a few months, and then after that I started creating my own projects. And really, that at that point, creating my own projects was the ultimate boost for me because it how do I say this? It made me enjoy programming. Although it's not really like got me a job literally. I mean, I got this job in PCC, right, in programming, but not in a company like coding company. I mean, I had like offers, but I decided to stay here and continue teaching here. All right. So aside from this, since Joker is here, I'm also versed in game dev, all the other um, avenues of programming. So game dev, web dev, servers, front end. So yeah, yeah, I have tried a lot of things. So Joker, yes, you've done it. Kinda, all right, that's nice. If you can install it now, that would be great because sometimes it takes a while, depending on the device of the user. All right. Okay. So I'm gonna be switching now to my screen. So, just like I said last week, we're gonna start off with exercises. So I left you guys with some assignments, if I remember. Where is it? Here, I think I saved it somewhere here. Data science, I think. Batch, alright, this one. Okay. All right. So, by the way, don't raise your hands because I'm currently using one screen. So, as a reminder, if I switch to other screen, I can't see you guys if you raise your hand. So, just call my attention, right? Turn on your mic. The camera is not really needed, but at least the microphone, okay, so that I can cater to your question. All right. Let's see. Scroll down. Alright, so my assignment before was to study the int and float functions, and I want you guys to demonstrate it to me this week. Okay, so I said demonstrate, but actually I prepared some couple of exercises. So I just actually Googled these questions. So kind of like a challenge for all of us, so we can all of us can answer it together. Okay, so while you guys are answering, I'm also going to be answering it myself, and then we'll compare solutions to see the result. Okay? Can I get a copy of that file? You mean this one? Let's see. Did I upload this one? Oh, okay. I forgot to upload this file itself. Okay, so I'll upload this one as soon as possible. The notes, right? The codes that I'm using, and also the things that I have discussed. Like, where is it? I had some notes here. Mostly just some outputs and a few of these things. But yeah, usually I think it's better if you just watch the recording. For me, all right. But yeah, I'll still share this one so that you can at least see from my point of view my code that I'm using. All right, and then you can compare with that one with what do you have. All right, it's not responding. Okay, right. Let's see. Mm, exercise. Okay, this is the one we will discuss later. Fundamentals of Python. So these are we're gonna be focusing later on loops and selection statements. All right. So we're gonna go in a different manner. So we're not gonna be focusing on the PowerPoint. We're gonna be focusing on the topics in the PowerPoint. And then I'll leave it up to you guys to review the PowerPoint for all those extra information, right? Because actually, if we go through all of this, usually um, 4 hours is usually not enough. Um, I mean, for me at least, if I discuss each and every one of them. So I decided to focus on the critical topics here. These are the critical topics for this PowerPoint. And then for the other informations and know-hows, you can just view the PowerPoint later on. So everything I will discuss here, you can also find it in the PowerPoint, all right? So the reason why I'm using a summary is so that we can make sure to finish the whole topic, all right? So that's my goal, so that we can be um, how do I say this? We can be in the right course for our syllabus, right? So my goal is for you guys to finish web scraping. So that's the most basic of basics of all data science projects that you are able to scrape for your own data to use for your projects, right? And those projects can then be used to give to your future employers if you want, and show them that you actually know what you're doing. Okay? All right. So, let's see. So, actually, from my experience, it doesn't really take much for them to notice you. I think they can just see, like, if you really know what you're doing compared to just copying and pasting. So, the leads that are trying to review your work, right? They can kind of see from your code if you're doing it by yourself or you're doing it with just pure copy and paste. So just an advice, just um, try your best to do it yourself. If you have assistants, then try your best, like AI assistants, for example. Try your best to at least explain the code in comment format. Okay, all right. So for now, let's start with the exercises. What have you learned last week? All right. So here are some of the exercises that I've found online. So we're gonna answer them together. Okay. So here is the first one. The main focus here is the print, the input, the float, the int, and string concatenation concepts, right? So these are the functions that we discussed last week. This is one of the main topics that we discussed as well. It's string concatenation, or combining strings into one string. All right. I think I can make this another slideshow. Oh no, wait, no, wait, no, wait. Presenter view. Okay, that's in window format. Okay, so I'll put it in this view. And then, yeah, this is what the exercises should limit itself to. So you're going to be using these things for the following exercises. Three exercises. I prepared three exercises for all of us. Okay. All right. So no questions. That's good. Let's proceed with the first one. Okay. So there's three. I'll answer the first one, and then I'll let you guys answer the second and third. I'm gonna be choosing one of you guys to answer each one, but I want everyone to at least try it for themselves on their own devices, okay? And then if you have any questions, now is the perfect time to raise them while we are um, answering these exercises, okay? All right, so we'll start with the personal greeter. Okay, so we're gonna be using here the input and the print and the concepts of string concatenation to have a basic conversation, right? So the task is for us to ask the user for their first name and favorite hobby, We're gonna ask a sample output like this is an example. Hello Alex. So Alex here is probably came from an input, and then it's cool that you enjoy photography. So that is the hobby of Alex. And the key concept here is the return concept that comes with functions, right? So if you remember, functions come with most functions come with a return, all right? And knowing and understanding how to make use of that return is the key to making good programs, okay? So um, this exercise will test you on that, all right? As well as the following two exercises, of course. Okay, so I'm actually gonna copy this one because okay, I can't click on it. I'm just gonna go back and forth to this. Okay, so the first is it will ask for the first name. It will ask for a hobby. Okay, so we discussed variables last time, right? So variables are like boxes. You can put anything you want in it without actually much effort. Because compared to how we did it before, like early 90s, 2000s, it was very difficult to actually declare a variable. I mean, since this is most of you guys, this is your first programming language, you probably think this is difficult, but actually it's much more difficult before because you have to specify the data type, you have to specify the size, there are more syntax nuances that you have to remember, so that's really annoying. But Python kind of removes all that and focuses more on the problem solving part. But the sacrifice of that is the processing power. So it takes longer to translate the code in Python versus to translate the code in C++. So you often hear these in news, like a company is trying to change their code from Python to C++, or their game code from a certain language or Ruby to C++, because C++ is like the de facto fastest programming language right now. That is also the most comfortable. Okay, so the hardest one is assembly language. It's just zeros and ones and a few English words. That's really it. But for C++, it's kind of like just the correct balance of complexity and ease of use. All right. But compared to Python, Python is like on the very end of ease of use. They want you to focus on the problem solving part. They don't want you to focus on the different nuances that makes programming very difficult before. Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to share that one. All right, so first name and favorite hobby. So we're gonna ask the user for those things. So we're gonna have to declare a container for the reply, right? So that's a variable. So what was that again? First name. Okay, so I'll create this one. First name. All right, so I'm assigning a value to this variable, but I don't have a value yet, so I'm going to think of a value. Okay, now the value, I want it to be dynamic. That means it is user dependent. So if you want a user dependent program, you have to ask the user, right? So one of the things that we can do is use the input command, okay? Now the input, if you remember, you're going to have to put a prompt in the middle or in between the parentheses, ask the user for what you want, like um, enter enter your first name, okay, like that. Remember, it has to be in a string format, so you have to either use double quotes or single quotes. All right, now if you remember, since the input has a return of whatever you input and then convert it into a string and then put it back here, it is returned into this location, then that value will now be saved into the variable because you are declaring it here that you are assigning the value of whatever the user inputs into this variable. Okay, now using the same concept, the next one is hobby. All right. So input, same thing. What is your hobby? Question, colon, question. All right. So I think that's enough. Okay. So what is your hobby? Let's save into the hobby variable. Let's see. What's the next one? Sample output. Hello, Alex. It's cool you enjoy photography. Okay, so a generic response, like the ones that you commonly see in social media sites, right? So we're gonna have to say print, and then since the concept that we're trying to use here is string concatenation. So if you remember string concatenation, we have to use the plus sign to combine different string data types, right? So we're gonna say like hello, and then if you remember, we have a default um, parameter called sep, right? That separates each objects with a space. So we can just end it like this, and then followed by a comma, and then the next word, which is obviously the name, first name, first name. All right, this is our second object. Next is the third object, which is um, gonna call out the hobby of the person. So let's see, your, I think that's correct spelling, your, I think it's not an E, your hobby, hobby is very interesting. All right, so this kind of response is very generic, right? It doesn't really depend on the first name. It doesn't depend on the hobby that you have, the user has. It will always think that it is interesting, right? What else do we need to do? Sample output. Remember the return concept. Okay, that's it. All right, so all we have to do is return some kind of output, but that looks similar to this one. All right. So it's a rather easy program, but the concept is what's important, right? You need to remember the concepts that we are discussing. Okay, so if I were to run this code here, it will ask for my first name. I'm gonna give it my first name, Daniel. Okay, what is your hobby? I like programming. Answer. Now, alright, I have an error. First name is not defined. It's fist name, so you have to be careful with the spelling. Actually, my laptop here is not on level ground, so it keeps on rocking back and forth. That's why I'm having difficulty, but that's okay. Daniel and then programming. All right, so it's gonna have a response like this. Hello, Daniel. We're programming. It's where your programming hobby. I'm gonna have to put a extra word here. Hobby, comma. It's very interesting. Okay, so Daniel, programming. All right, so now it looks more like a legit sentence, right? Hello, Daniel. Programming hobby is very interesting. All right. Again, this is very dynamic. By that I mean it can be any first name and it can be any kind of hobby. It will always be interesting. That will always be the response of our program. Take note, it's only that because it's not like what we have with AI. Like it can generate different things. All right, so let's just take it one step at a time, right? So let's start with the simplest things, and then later on we'll try to explore AI, which I think another instructor will handle that one for you. Okay, so this is it. This is our answer for the first exercise. Okay, so it's really rather simple. We were able to utilize the input, the print, string concatenation. We're not really concatenation per se because we're not using the plus sign, but we are using um, the sep parameter, which automatically puts a space in between each objects, And if you remember each object, right? What is an object? We're gonna treat everything that we see in Python as an object. Okay, everything that we see is an object. So this is actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are actually 5 objects in this single print statement. Okay. Yeah, that's it really. So, any questions so far with the solution that I showed? I think there's more of you here now. Can Justin, were you here last week?
Uh,
Okay, all right. So, okay, I think there were just 4 of us last week. I'm not really sure. Anyway, so okay, Ken is logged in twice. It's okay. Any questions so far? Can we have the recordings of the meeting? Yes, it's saved in the LMS. It's here in our learning management system. Just go to the course that you are currently enrolled, and then there will be a section called recordings. All right, and then just click on session 1. You can click on the recording that we had last week. Okay. I'm gonna upload it as soon as I can. Alright, it's a fairly large file, so I often just wait until I have access to Wi-Fi before I try to upload it because it's very costly if I use data and all the other things as well, like the PowerPoint, the Discord. I think we're trying to move away from Discord because they were trying to ask for more authentication if you want to use Discord, right? Like IDs and stuff. So it's not really that safe if you think about it. So that's okay. I'll just choose one of you guys here to present your output, and hopefully the other students here will also um, try to solve it themselves on their end. Okay, and show the result later on using share screen. Okay, all right. So I think that's all. There's no question related to the solution. Okay, so I'll take
none.
that. Ah, okay. Who's that? Ken?
No, no, no. I
Oh,
said,
Jeff.
yeah, I'm okay. I'm
Okay.
okay.
All right. Okay. Since everyone's good, we're gonna proceed to the second exercise. Okay. So the second one is grocery budgeter. All right. So this is actually related to your assignment. So this is the kind of like the key thing that you have to do. So you need to practice converting strings into numbers using int and float to perform mathematical operations. The task is to ask the user for the name that of a name of an item. So that's obviously a string, and then the quantity that they want to buy and the price of that item. So most, I think, you're gonna have 3 different inputs for this one. And then sample output, here's a sample output. You're gonna say your apples will cost 450. Okay, you need to keep in mind how the functions can transform the data type used for computations, which is just int and float themselves. Okay, all right. So I don't really have like a restriction of how you do this, right? This is the problem that I'm trying to show you. I want you guys to uh, think of a solution for this problem, right? Because that's what we as programmers will do in the future. They're gonna present us a problem. They're not gonna be telling us the exact specifications of how they want the output to be. They just like they're just gonna say like, I have this, and then I want this kind of output. So uh, kindly make a code that can do that. All right. So that's literally what you will get from companies, right? And their different sections asking you to make some sort of um, uh, script, or something that they can use for their department. All right. Okay. So this is the task. I think 10 minutes is enough to solve this one. But I do encourage you guys to. Okay, I'm gonna switch back to that in a moment. I encourage you guys to, for now, not use AI or Google. Okay, try to remember your lessons and solve the questions yourselves. But if it's near the end, like near the 10-minute mark, you guys can just try a quick Google search and then see the result, right? Uh, mm, um, I think 100% of the time there will be a solution. You can find a solution for this because I just also found these questions on Google. All right, but I don't have the code for them to actually uh, write this one. Right? I mean I can, but I'm serving it as your kind of um, exercise. Okay. All right. So I'll give you guys 10 minutes, and then I'll choose maybe one or two later to demonstrate their solutions, okay, and discuss what they have, okay, because it's very important to discuss your solution. Why? Because as data scientists, you're going to be presenting your output, you're going to be presenting your data, your insights, your graphs to your leaders, your managers, your decision makers in your company, your viewers, if you're trying to present it to a certain community, right? You're gonna have to get used to this then, to presenting and discussing your solution. Okay. All right. So it's 1:50 on my clock. I'm gonna be back by 2, but I'm still gonna be here. Okay. So I'll just turn off my camera to save bandwidth, but I'll be leaving my screen share and voice available. Okay. So if anyone has a question, you can just raise your hand. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna go switch back. Video off. All right. Here you go. All right, so it's now 2:02. Okay, so who wants to volunteer for sharing their answer? No one? All right, okay. So I guess I'll choose. Okay, I'll start with Joger since you're new this week. Okay, so do you have a solution for the exercise?
Hi. I haven't actually seen the recording, so I need to catch up first in the first.
Okay, all right, that's okay. All right, since you're here, right, and to like foster classmate to classmate relationship, who do you pick to cover up for your answer? Choose one of your classmates.
I'll, uh, I'll do a random na lang siguro.
Okay, yeah, just go random. Who do you want to choose?
Any of the J's. We have three J's, right? One is
Any
new,
of the
so
J's? Okay. All right. So I guess I'll just choose Justin. Okay. Justin, do you have an answer for this?
Yes po. Meron naman, pero wait.
It's okay if it's not complete. All right. That's all right because I only gave you guys 10 minutes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I can see your screen. All right.
Sila po ba?
Yeah. I can see your screen.
So, eto, nag-assign ako sa variable. Ay,
Mm-hmm.
ide-demo po ba?
Yeah. I can see your
Okay.
screen.
Ay. So, hello, what is your name? Justin.
Mm-hmm.
How many apples are you going to buy? Three. Plus
Okay.
N. Hi, Justin.
All right. So now
Cause,
you have a total. Okay. So in your last line of code, you are actually using a new function. So that's string, okay? So can you tell your classmates what does the string function do?
tawag dito. Kapag kasi, like itong match, int, int kasi siya. So, hindi siya like ma-concatenate dito sa string, pati
Mm-hmm.
itong price. So,
Mm-hmm.
ang ginawa nila is kinonvert siya into, I mean, from int to string, tas ito from float to string para makuha tong result na 'to.
Okay, very good. So
Ayun,
he was using the string function to actually convert the what the much variable, which is now a integer data type, back into string so that he can use the string concatenation method and then add the strings all together to create the output that you see. All right, so that's very good. Um, Using everything that we have learned and then applied it into a solution. All right, great work. Okay, let's now
thank
go
you.
to the next exercise. So I think the next one should be a bit harder. So I kind of like scale this one up by one each time. So this one is should be a bit harder. Okay. So using everything that you have learned so far and anything that you want to add, like if you know some certain functions through your research, you can use that one as well. So this is for the tip and tax calculator. So what you're gonna do is create a program that calculates the final bill at a restaurant. Um, it doesn't have to be a restaurant, but that's just an example. The important part is that you have two outputs, one with the subtotal and one with the tax and the tip. Okay, so you have two different outputs that you need to show at the same time. Okay, so the key concept that you will learn from this is of course, the data type conversions, how to accept inputs, and from those inputs, use them for mathematical computations. Okay, so here is a sample. In the task section, there's also a sample formula for how to do this. So the total will have to be with the subtotal plus subtotal divided by slash times. Oh no, wait, I think this is wrong. Slash times tax. Okay, so the slash times is actually a symbol for multiplication. All right, so it's subtotal times tax plus subtotal times tip, and then everything is in dollar sign. So yeah. Anyway, you have a sample output at the bottom as your reference. So let's see, times tax and the tip. All right, so I want you guys to decide for yourself what the tax is and what the tip percentage is. So for tax, maybe you can go for um 2%, and then maybe for the tip you can go for 5%. It's up to you guys, all right? The important thing here is the concept, that you understand the concept of what we're trying to do. Okay? All right. So just like earlier, for this exercise, I'll give you guys around 10 minutes or so, and then I'm gonna call someone, which I haven't called yet, to discuss their solution. Okay? All right. It's 2:09 on my clock. Your timer starts now for 10 minutes. All right? Good luck. Okay, so that should be enough time for someone to have an answer. Any volunteers? So aside from Justin and Jover. So Edmund, Jepti, and Hazel, anyone want to volunteer? None? Alright, so I'll just choose, okay? I'm gonna choose. I don't have the answer. Alright, that's okay. At least you tried. That's the important part. Alright, so since Jepti throws out the flag, I'm gonna call Hazel. Hazel, do you have an answer? Hazel, are you here? Uh, okay, that's alright. Let's see the error. We can try and solve it together. What the error is about.
Okay po, pero teka, try ko share yung screen ko. So, wait lang po.
That's okay. No need to hurry.
Saan siya? Nakita ko lang, naiinis ako, hindi ko siya ma-resolve. Ito po, nagaganito siya. Send not executed
So,
due to
due to
pending.
pending input. Okay, I think you are running another cell that's waiting for an input. That's why you have that error. Okay, can you press OK? And I want you to refresh the page. Alright, so the kernel at the top should be white. That means it's not busy. Okay, so now where is your cell that has the solution for the Excel shells?
Hindi ko nga po siya ma-function eh, kaya hindi ko siya magawa.
Okay. All right, that's okay. But that kind of error, okay, just remember that kind of error happens because another cell is currently running and then it was waiting for an input. All right? So remember the top right, that circle? If you see the kernel black, that means it's busy with something. Yes, that one. So
Oh,
that's your indication that something else is running in your notebook. Okay, some other cell. So in order to reset that one, you can just either reset the page or reset the kernel. Either one will work. All right. Okay. So yeah. Thank you for that, Hazel. So since Hazel has no
sorry.
answer, that's okay. There's
So,
still more
I've been
exercises
trying.
later on. That's perfectly fine. All right. How about Edmund? I think Edmund was the one that I haven't called yet. Do you have an answer? By the way, Hazel, it's okay to stop your screen sharing. Okay, so Edmund also has an error. Okay, can we see your error? So alright, so I still don't see your screen, Edmund. Okay, there. I think this is it. Okay, yeah, I see your screen now. Okay, so you have an error. Can you explain to me what you did?
Wait. On the
Hello, Edmund?
Medyo di ko rin siya masundan kasi sir, pina-practice ko pa siya.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah. Let's try and explain your code, and we'll start from there. Okay.
I just put it in the item is it in the name of the item, quantity,
Mm-hmm.
it is the number of item, price. And then when I run it, um, I just use it the long method,
Mm-hmm.
space, and at yung output niya sir na error na dito siya sa print.
Okay, so let's try and analyze the error. So it says name error. Name quantity is not defined. So what you need to remember is that when you're naming variables, capitalization matters. So I can see that at the
Mm.
top, when you initialize the quantity variable, it was a capital Q. But on your print statement, you're using a small letter q.
Um,
So you need to decide on which one you want to choose. You want to use, I mean. So you can either change the one in the print. Okay, yeah, that's also possible. Try and run your code now.
right.
All right, name of an item. Try it out. Apple. Okay. Number. Amount. 1.5. Your Apple amount is 1.5. All right, so the math is a bit off. So how are you gonna fix that one? You're gonna have to perform a calculation in Python and then use the variable where that is stored as part of your output. All right. So how are you gonna edit your code for that one?
Mm. Ay, hindi ko masundan sir.
Again, I'm sorry.
Hindi ko pa siya paano sir. Like,
Ah, okay.
paano
All
siya
right.
i-input?
Okay, that's okay. At least you get part of the solution as your answer. Okay, that's good enough for me. All right, since I only gave you guys 10 minutes, that's okay. All right, so I'm gonna try and solve the question myself, okay? So that you guys have some sort of reference, all right? So what we need is something that calculates the final bill, all right? So we have a subtotal and then the tax and then tax and tip as an output using string concatenation. All right, so oh, by the way, you can unshare your screen now. Hazel and Edmund. Okay, so where is my screen? Okay, this one. All right, so I forgot the question. Create a program that calculates the final bill at a restaurant. So we have a tax, we have a tip, percentages. Okay, so I'm gonna save those things as default. I'm gonna say tax will be um, 2%, so 0.02, 0.02 tax, sorry, tax, and then the other one is tip would be 3%. I'm gonna say 3%, so that's 3%. All right, so I'm gonna be asking for the input. So I'm gonna save this one to a variable called order. It's gonna accept an input. This is the name. So what did you order? Something like that. All right. Add a space here somewhere. And then the next one is what is the price? So the price would be input. How much did it it cost. So you're gonna have to ask the user like as if you are the one asking the user, right? So how much did it cost? That's the question. There should be a question mark, right? Not a colon. I'll put a space there. Next is we have the order and the price. So we have, wait. What did you order? That's a text. Price would be a number. So we need to convert this one into a number. So all we have to do is, since the return statement, the return for an input is the value itself in string format, all we have to do is pass that one as an input to the int function. So this is what I'll do. And then from there, I can use the price variable directly as a number. So I'm gonna say subtotal, wait, print is equal to subtotal space plus space. Oh wait, I'm reading the wrong. Okay, plus space plus subtotal is um oh I think I think we can also put the quantity. What did you order? How much did it cost? How many did you order? So that's the next question, right? Quantity would be int, still the same. Input, uh, question would be how many did you order? Like that. Okay, so the subtotal would be just the regular order multiplied by quantity. Wait. What did you order? That's just the name, right? So it should be quantity times price. Okay, subtotal. Um, we can try and see that subtotal of wait. Subtotal of mm, order order is quantity and price multiplied by price. Um, the spaces would be space order space and then another space here for quantity and price, and then after that you will need to add like um, an ending. So subtotal of order is quantity multiplied by price. Um, how should we end the sentence? I think I'll just end it with a punctuation mark so that we can clearly see where it ends. Quantity and price is a single expression, but I want to make sure that it's computed exactly. So I want to put some open and close parentheses here, just like how PEMDAS does, right, in mathematics. So it prioritizes the ones inside the parentheses. All right. Um, what next? So we have the tax, right? So the subtotal would be. Let me see. No, that's a question. The subtotal would be in tax and tip. All right. Subtotal. Next would be print with tax and tip. It's space plus you would have mm, it's a tax total of, I'm not really sure if my statement is correct, but I just want to show you guys what it should look like. So quantity and price, I think it's more confusing, right? So I think it's better if I were to save this one like this. So subtotal would be equal to quantity times price. Sorry, I think I pressed the wrong button. This one. This one. Hmm. Wait. Save all. Alright. With tax and tip, it's a tax total of um, quantity times price. So here would be subtotal plus a dot at the end. Alright, and then another print for the tip. So with tip would be plus subtotal multiplied by whatever the tip was, the value of tip. So we weren't really using tax, right? So subtotal would be quantity times price times tax. I think this would be correct. All right, let's run the code. Let's see if I have some kind of error. Did I miss something? It's currently idle. All right. All right. What did you order? I ordered a steak, for example. How much did it cost? 350 something. How many? I ordered four, so that would be like 350 times 2 is 700. So 4 would be 1 4. How many? Can only get a string, not int, just string. So quantity here and the price are both, wait, they're already integers, right? So what am I missing here? It's at line 7. So view line number. This is line 7. Um, let's see. Alright, so the problem here is I'm using directly quantity and price, but they are still numbers, right? So you have to put all of them into a string to convert them back into string format, string data type. Then I can use string concatenation because all of them are now as a often are as the same data type. All right, run. What did you order? I ordered fried chicken. How much did it cost? It's around 350. How many? I did 4, so that should give me 1 4. There should be another error. Not float to string. Order. What did you order? That's a string. Quantity and price is now also a string. Subtotal times tip. Quantity times price times tax. The error is on line 8. It's a tax total of, it's a total of subtotal. Subtotal is quantity times price, both of them are now numbers, times tax. Tax is also a number. So why is this not reading correctly? Like, type error can only concatenate strings, not float, to string. So subtotal here is a string, right? Can only concatenate string. Hmm. Mm, let's see. Alright, so it's still the same error. Let's try to analyze our code again. So it can only concatenate string, not float to string. The error occurred on line 8. The only variable on line 8 is a subtotal. What is subtotal? Subtotal is quantity, which is an int, price, which is an int, order, which is also an int. Oh no, wait. Tax. What is tax? Tax is 0.02 or 2%. So, why does it consider it as not a float? Hmm.
I think you have in the quantity
Hmm?
in the sub you need to multiply the quantity and price. Then after that you have to multiply the tax by one plus tax, and then separately another quantity times price plus one plus tip in order to get the whole total cost.
Alright, so who was that? I think that was
It's
Joker.
me,
Alright,
Joker.
okay. So can you do it on your end and share your screen? Let's see your solution.
Okay. Can you see my
We can't see your screen yet.
screen?
Alright, so you have tax and tip.
Yep.
Alright,
And then
and
here
then,
in quantity, I asked for the how many did you order and converted it into a float.
mm-hmm,
Then price, and I asked for it, how much is it, and float.
mm-hmm.
Then I took a subtotal, and that's quantity times price. Then the total, I got the subtotal, subtotal, and then I added the subtotal times the tax, and then another subtotal times the tip from the subtotal, and then that's just the total.
Alright,
Parang I added muna the quantity and price, then separately I computed the tax na I would get from the subtotal, and then the tip from the subtotal, and then added them up.
alright. So that's a pretty
Parang
solid solution. Okay. So in terms of comparing our solutions, I was using the what? I was using the wrong function. So I was using int. Instead, we should be using float. And then for the logic side, your classmates separated it into different variables. So in this case, the subtotal and the total. And then all they have to do is just call out those variables directly on the, how do I call this one? On the subpan. Oh, no, wait, wait. Uh, yeah, because, let's see. Yeah, so with that, if you were to use this 24 with tax, so that was tip. All right. Okay. So very good. All right. So that was what I was missing here in my solution. All right. So you could have saved the result first into a variable rather than assigning it directly here in the output. All right. So I hope everyone understands the solution your classmate has showed. Okay. Okay. So I think it's all right now to move to the next project, the next lesson, I mean, since we are already done with the first few functions we have learned last week. All right. So for today, not that one, this one. So these are the topics that I'm gonna be discussing first, okay, and then how to use them later on, and make your work how to say your work like mm, quality, I mean, would improve, right, by knowing directly which one to use and which one not to use. Okay, so that's the main point of today's discussion. All right, today's this one. From what I can see, it's also already 2:50. So I think it's time for us to all of us to have some kind of break. That's not really pressuring you guys into answer a certain exercise. All right. So I'm gonna give you guys around 20 minutes of break time, and then use that one to get some kind of food or coffee to increase your focus, and then after that, there's no need to actually contact them. So you're gonna have to wait for the next session for you guys to have your new photo. Okay. All right. So I hello, hello, testing, testing. Hello, hello,
Hello po.
hello. Okay. All right. Let me join in. Okay, so it's good that you guys are still here. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, maybe for now I'll just turn off the camera for a while. I seem to have some difficulties here with my connection, but it seems that I was um, logged out of the session, so that's good. Okay. So apologies for the delay. All right, let's continue where we left. All right. So for now, we're gonna continue the discussion to the next topic, which is this one. All right. Again, all the things that are displayed here is also discussed in this PowerPoint. All right. So the reason again why I'm using a separate uh, PowerPoint for this is because I want us to actually finish the whole thing, and then for anything extra, I want you guys to actually read it for yourself here on the PowerPoint, okay, that I'm going to be sharing as well to the LMS. All right, so yeah, I hope that's clear. So again, I'll just be using my audio and share screen for now to save bandwidth. Um, yeah, hopefully everything goes well. All right, so let's start with the range function. So that's an absolutely new function that we'll learn. Okay, so the range function is very useful in a lot of different ways, but its primary purpose is to just give out a list of values. All right, so it just gives us something that we can use, that we don't have to actually create data ourselves. All right, so the range function will do it for us. Like, for example, give us a list of numbers from 1 to 10 in steps of 1. So that is just, in short, it will just give us um, a number, a list of numbers from starting from 0 up to 10. But if you say from 1 to 10, then it will have to start at 1. So there are some certain conditions that you can use to modify the output of the range function, right? Using the parameters. Now, by itself, is not really useful. Okay, so if you go ahead and search the range function, right? Like what we do before, just like last week, range function in Python, like that. Alright, so here's one from W3 schools. Okay, so usually it's paired with a loop, but we haven't actually discussed that one. In fact, I am saving that one for something we will use in the end. See, for loop and a while loop. So, where is it? This one. Alright, so we'll have to skip this one for now. But as you can see, usually the range is used for something in the for loop. But we can actually do something like this. So it's just assigned directly to a variable, and then all you have to do is access it again and again. Or if you just want to see the output, right, like just for this purpose, like for actually seeing what the range output is, you can start using the for loop just to see the output for now, but we don't have to um, use the for loop uh, directly. Okay, so for example, let's see. All right, so we have x, right? It's using x as a variable. So for x is equals to range of, let's try range of 5. Okay, and then for I in x, right? And I, just to see what's inside the range function. Okay, so right now what you will see is 0 to 4. All right, um, aside from the for loop, which we haven't discussed yet, the main purpose of the range function is just to give a list of values that we can use. Okay, so right now we say range of 5. Okay, but um, if we were to strictly follow the parameters of the range function, it would have 3 parameters. So if you go ahead and look for the syntax, it would have this one, 3. All right, and of those 3 parameters, it would have 3. One of them would have to be required, so that would be the stop. All right, so it does actually start, stop, and step. So start and step is optional, so stop is required. So that means in our code, this is our stop value. All right, so if that is our stop value, what is the default for the start? Default for start is 0. Default for step is 1. So that's our value. So in reality, Python is seeing this code as something like this. range, 0, 5, and 1. That's actually the real value that Python sees when we're running this code. Okay, now what do those numbers mean? So from the description, it says start, stop, and step. It will start counting from this parameter. It will stop counting at this number, but not including that number. And it will skip in steps of this number, whatever is indicated. So let's try and see what's here. So it starts from 0, right? Steps of 1, so skip 1 every time. So 1, 2, 3, up until 5, but not including 5. So this is what we see here, 0 to 5, not including 5. Okay, now what makes this great? So let's say, for example, you just want to count things like um, give me um, a list of 5 numbers that you're going to be using as for something, right? Like without actually creating a separate list for that one. So this is how a range is very useful for that. Or if you say like, I want to like count something up to a certain number of times, right? But you don't have a specific counter for it. So you're going to be using the range function. So that's one of the main applications. Okay, now you won't be seeing a lot of applications for range where it's not included in a loop. All right, so that's why if you're looking at this PowerPoint um, early on, if you're reading this PowerPoint, you're gonna discover that the for loop is the one that was discussed first, right? But in my PowerPoint here, I am discussing it last, right? So the reason for that is because I want you guys to focus on these things first before the loops, all right? Because it's kind of confusing if we start with the loops first and then go with the conditions afterwards. So that's why I started with the range and then go with the conditions and then maybe apply the range to some of these things, and then finally all of these will be applied to the um, loops that we will use later on. All right, so don't be too how do I say this, don't be too overwhelmed. Okay, it looks a lot, but actually all of them are just related, and if you see later on, they're just the same as what we are talking every day, right? Everyday stuff that we're talking about. It's just like translated into code, all right? Because that's what really we're doing with Python, right? It's a programming language. We're trying to speak in Python, just like how we're trying to speak in English, just like how we're trying to speak in any other languages, all right? The only difference is that we're not used to the syntax yet, all right? So, okay, so keep in mind the range function for now, and that keep in mind that the range function is usually paired with for loops, all right? So, strictly speaking, if you were to describe the range function, this is one of those things that we call a generator, but it's not really described here, all right? From the name itself, a generator, because it generates new values each time the function was requested. So in this case, in the for loop, right, you'll realize it there, but each time a loop happens, it's requesting the range function, and every time the range function was called, it will um, go and generate a new number based on the condition that it has. So it's not like it's saved, these numbers are saved beforehand, right? It uses these parameters to generate these numbers every time the range function is called, all right? So just keep that in mind for now. Again, you don't really see a lot of cases where the range function is used in other ways. It's usually used together with the for loop. In fact, maybe I should have reserved the range function later on when we were discussing the for loop. But uh, yeah, I just realized that now. Okay, next is the range function. So that's that, right? Just keep that in mind for now. Save that for later. Next is indentation. Now this is very critical for Python. And why is this critical? Because indentation dictates groupings. All right. Let's say in coding, right? You want to indicate that certain lines of code are grouped together. All right. Let's say, for example, I'm just gonna type random pieces of code. Okay. So, for example, something like this. All right. So it doesn't really mean anything, but I'm trying to make a point. So these four lines of code now belong to one group, right? So they are called the global group, right? Because they are at the leftmost part. All right. Now, if I were to add an indentation, or in this case, just a simple tab key, it doesn't really matter how many spaces you have, right? As long as the indentations are the same. It can just be one space, that's perfectly fine, or one tab. The purpose is that it should be consistent, right? The safest thing that you can do is use the tab key for each indentation. Now, let's say that under this line, I'm going to say this line is the first group. Okay, first grouping. Okay. I want these lines of code, okay, to belong to the first group. So if I want these lines of code to belong to the first group, I have to use um, one indentation each succeeding line to tell Python that these lines of code belong to this one. Okay? When I say it belong to this one, I mean uh, they're part of this set. All right. Now, what if I were to create a second group? That's perfectly fine. So I were to say second group, I would do it like this. All right. So now the first group is the one above. Okay. All right, like that. Okay. Now you have two different groupings, two separate groupings, right? But the whole thing is still under the global group, which is at the leftmost indentation. All right. Now, let's say you want to create a deeper level of group. Let's say this one, for example, the one in line 12. Let's say there are more lines of code underneath this one. So you go ahead and do another indentation. So this time you do two lines of indentation, right? So this one here, of course, not right now. It's not really making sense because it's not actual real code. I'm just telling you guys that this is how it should how it should look like um, when you're typing your code. Okay, so as you can see, it's kind of like it's layering, right? Okay, so the actual term for this is nesting. Okay, each layer or each group that um, you go and make one is called a different nest. Okay, so this is the first level, this is the second level, this is the third level. Okay, so now this lines of code belong to line 12. Okay, which in turn is all of these things belong to this line of code. Okay, so it's very important that you realize this distinction, okay? Because that's how you separate different groups. That's how you tell Python that one part of the code belongs to this group instead of another group, all right? That's how you tell Python that. Okay, now that's important because the next step is about the if. Why did I put the F string here? Okay. Uh, Alright, so I seem to have not made this into the correct sequence. But that's okay. We'll just do it one by one. Anyway, in the end, it's all gonna be mashed up together. F string. Let's focus on the F string. since I have that already. Okay, remember, this is how you group things, all right? And in fact, you even see this one in the example earlier, even on W3 schools. See, it even has indentations here, see? So this line of code belongs to this, all right? So this loop has these lines of code. That's what it's trying to say, all right? But yeah, one thing at a time. Okay, so that's for indentation. Next is for the F string. Now, what's wrong with my... There's a lot of things wrong today. Okay, here we go. So, F strings. What is an F string? F string is the easiest way to format your output using print. Alright? So, let's say we have different variables. Let's say I have x is equals to the string of Daniel. I have y is equals to a value of 56, for example. Just a number, a random number that came to mind. Next is, let's try and print this out. Now, usually when you're printing something, you what? What do? You keep in mind the spaces, keep in mind the sep and the end parameters of the print. Also with the plus signs for the concatenation, right? String concatenation. Using the F string is the easiest way because you can just compose your entire message as is and put anywhere the variables or the expressions that you need. Okay, let's say for example here, F, right? F, and then okay. Oh wait, just to be sure, let's look for um, let's try this one. F string. In case I forgot something. F string Python. Just to be sure. String formatting. Alright. So this is how you would format it. Okay, you start with the letter F and then followed by a string. Okay. Now, okay, so it's not really stating anything. Modifiers. Alright. Okay. So I think we're good. So you start with the F, right? And then followed by a string. Okay. Now as you can see, it's indicated by a different color. It's actually violet. Okay. Now F and then the string. So let's say hello, but I want it to say hello Daniel. I want it to still be dynamic, the same as what we were doing before, where we say print and then uh, hello space and then comma and then the variable x, right? I want something to have this effect. So if you want to do that, all you have to do is put an open and close bracket inside, and inside of those brackets is any expression that you can think of. All right, any expression, whether they are uh, a computation or a variable or anything really. It's just standard expression space. So if I were to say x there, right, it would display hello and whatever is inside of x. Okay. Um, let's say your number is y. Okay. Again, inside an open and close bracket. Curly brace, I mean. So if I were to run this code, okay, hello Daniel, your number is 56. So as you can see, exactly how you're written it down, that's how it's gonna be displayed, right? So if I were to compare that one here, so print hello x, if I were to write the equivalent of that one, we would write it like this. Your, without the space here at the beginning, your number is, and then the y. Alright. There you go. There should be a comma after this one. So here, there you go. Uh, um, 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 no, it should be. There's a space after the X. So I can't really exactly copy how the comma is formatted because after the X there is a space. So hello Daniel space. I can't get rid of that space. So this is the best that I can do. I can get rid of the space, but it will affect the other area of my uh, output as well, right? So I'm just gonna leave it like that. Or if you want to use string concatenation, you can do it like this, right? Print and then hello, hello, space plus x, right? Plus there should be another space here. Your wait, comma, your number is space concatenation y. I'm using double quotes. Y. Alright. What is wrong here? Can only concatenate. Okay. String run. Okay. Now, as you can see, we can replicate the output for this one using string concatenation, and then if we were to separate using the default values for print in this way, we can't copy exactly the location of the comma like this one because after the X it's there's always a space, so you have to do it like this. All right, now again, this is actually much easier, right? Because you don't have to always think about the spaces, the plus signs for concatenation, right? It's much harder to do it like this. This is the easiest way and it's the common method used um, by the modern, by the current version of Python, right? F-string is the um, default way that we format output using the print. Okay. For data science, right, we're not going to be using primarily the print as our source of output, right? Because later on we're going to be using graphs, we're going to be using tables to show our result. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't actually use outputs like this one, but for now, I'm just showing you guys that if you're ever gonna use this kind, the easiest way is the F string because you can write out your sentence how you want it, and then insert anything that you want in between using open and close curly braces, and inside is any expression that you want. Right. So in this case, our expression is just a single variable. You can perform calculations like y divided by 6, for example, like that. So this is an expression, right? Python will see this one, evaluate it into one value before putting it on the output. So if you were to run this code, it will first compute this before running this entire thing and passing it to the print function, which is something like this. All right. So this is actually much more complicated if you were to do this over here because you have to first use the number data type of y like this, and then you have to divide this one by 6. So first is you have to compute it inside of a string function so that it would have the same output like that one. All right, so this is more resource intensive compared to this one. All right, because you're using an extra function to convert it into a string, whereas in this case it's more efficient from what I know. Okay. Um, yeah. So different ways of displaying the output. This one is by far the easiest because you can insert it anywhere you want, any expression that you want, and exactly how you write it down. That's how it's gonna appear on the output. So that's the F string, really. Um, yeah. So it's just a way of formatting your output. If all right. So how do I say this? This is actually a batch discussion. So it's if else, and then if, elif, and then else. So these three are the main reason why programs or any script really looks like it's smart, because that is what we will use to simulate decisions in programs, in scripts, right? This is um, what the script will look for if we pose it with a certain question. All right. Now, with that, we're also going to need all of these things. Okay. So we have the Boolean data type, comparisons, Boolean expressions, and the logical operations. So these things go hand in hand with the if. All right. So it might seem a lot, but it's actually quite simple. All right. Now, the only one of the best ways that we can do this is for us to um, start with a certain question. So the goal is, right? The goal is always to translate your problem into code, right? That's the main point. So let's say our problem is, um, yeah, let's have a very simple problem. Like the question would be, are you male or female? Okay, that's the question that we're trying to translate into uh, code, right? Now, with that, right, what are the usual answers? So this is the question, right? This is the question. So how would you answer this one? You would either answer yes or no, or true or false, right? So, um, so those are the only two answers that we can give, right? True or false, right? Are you a male? Is it true? Are you not a male? So that's false, right? So that automatically means you're a female. So in that sense, so that means the true or false here is our new data type, our new data type, and this is actually called Boolean data type. All right, this is the first part that we have here, Boolean data type. It's true or false. In fact, if you type this one out as true and then false, right, with the capital T and the capital F, Python will recognize that one as a value. See, it won't show that it's wrong. But if you type it with a small t, all right, and a small f, it's gonna recognize that one as variables that you have created, with no values. Uh, in this sense. But yeah, if you want the Boolean data type, it has to be capital T for true, capital F for false. Or in other ways, you can also say that a true value is 1. It can be a 1, or it can be a false, that's 0. All right, so Python will also recognize 1 and 0 as true and false. Okay, let's stick with that one for now. All right, and go directly to comparisons. Okay, not yet with these things, but we're gonna need this in order for us to use those. Okay, now we know the Boolean data type. What comes next is the comparison. So basic math, right? I'm sure you guys are familiar with how these things work. Greater than, less than, greater than, equal to, less than, equal to. Uh, are they equal? So double equal. Are they not equal? So that's a punctuation mark and an equal sign. So these are the basic things that we use in mathematics, right? To indicate or to compare two different values. Okay, now with these comparison, right, these are our new our new comparison operators, right? Now from the name itself, what are they used for? They are used for comparing things, right? Now if we are comparing things, okay, let's try this one out. Let's say, is 56 greater than 40? Let's try that one out. No, wait, sorry. Greater than 40. If we were to run this directly, oh no. If we were to run this directly, Python will say that it is true, right? If we were to say, is 56 less than 40, alright, run the code, it will say that it's false. If we say if 56 equal to less than or equal to 56, run the code, it's gonna say it's true. Um, is 56 equal to the number 56 as well? Then it's true. It doesn't make sense at this point to compare it like this, but if they were saved in different variables, like x is equals to 56 and then y is equals to 56, and you were trying to compare them both, this would make sense why you were trying to check if they were equal, right? X could come from somewhere else, y could come from somewhere else, and if you were to try to check if they are the same, that's how you would do it, right? An application of this would be for passwords, right? So you're trying to check if the input by the user, the password that they gave, is the same as the one that is saved on the database, right? So that's what comparison operators are used for, okay? The same way as how we're using the equal, the less than and greater than in mathematics, that's also how we are trying to use them in code, all right? So I'm sure you guys still know this one at the back of your head, how to use these operators, right? So it's not really that hard. You're trying to compare things using these operators, right? So we'll go ahead and go to the next part, okay? Because it's not really that difficult if you think about it. The next part is the Boolean expressions, because that's what we actually did already. The Boolean expressions is this one, right? This is actually an expression already. You're trying to see if both are equal, or if both if the x is greater than y, or if the x is less than y. This whole thing is an expression, right? And in fact, you can even expand this further by having more expressions inside of each of those variables. Like inside of y, this could be something else. Like this could have been um, like more expressions, more comparisons, right? But I want you to realize that this is itself an expression, right? Anything that can be evaluated into a single value, that is what an expression is. All right. So we're done with data type, comparisons, and Boolean expressions, right? It's really simple once you relate it to what you already know in mathematics, right? So Boolean data type, operators, expression. Okay, now the last one would seem like the next step, logical operations. All right, now logical operations is what you use to simulate the questions, the following questions, the or, the and the not. All right, so every time you're trying to ask a question, there will always be, or almost often there will always be, an or, an and, or sometimes a not. Okay, Most commonly, it's the or and the and. So an example is what we have here at the top. Are you a male or a female? Right? You're trying to ask for um, the result of the two equations, the two expressions, the left and the right. Okay, so you're trying to see which one is correct or not. Okay, now if we were to translate this one into code terms, right? So let's say, for example, x and y. Mm, Inside of y is another expression. Let's say inside of y, you're trying to see if 56 is greater than 40, but inside of x, you're trying to see if 56 is um, less than 70, right? So if we were to evaluate this one, the result will be this is true, right? This one should be true as well. Okay, now how does this work? So if I were to um, translate this one, so if I were to use an OR operator here, x or y, the result will be true. Okay, now um, in programming terms, right, when you say or, um, it's basically saying it will become true whether the left or the right is true in this case. So from the question earlier, are you male or female, right? Um, Based on that context, we don't really know what will happen either if you're male or female, right? We don't have much context to go on. So let's think of another question where we can apply this one. Um, let's say you're trying to access the airport. You're trying to catch um, a ride on a plane. All right. Now, what do you often need if you were to ride a plane? So you would need a ticket, right? So how do they confirm a ticket? They would confirm a ticket by either having, so this is not um, an applicable question for this one. Either you have, okay, so catching a ride on the plane. Okay, so for confirmation, they will need either a ticket, the actual ticket itself, or the reference number of your um, ticket, right? Now, if you were to present, you were to go to the how do I say this? On the counter, right? Where they're checking your ticket, right? So you're gonna say, do you have your ticket or your reference number? That is what they will ask you, right? That is the question that they will give you. Right? Do you have your ticket or your reference number? That's what. And then you're gonna say, okay, I don't have a ticket, but I have a reference number. So that means the left side of the or ticket is false because you don't have the ticket, right? But on the right side, it's true because you have the reference number. So that means you can still ride the plane, okay? The result of this logical expression, this is now the logical expression that I was indicating here, logical operation. So we're combining the different concepts now, okay? Now, if we were to do the opposite, if you had the ticket, so that's true, but you don't have a reference number, so that would be false, right? What would happen? You can still ride the plane, so that's still true, okay? What if you both have it? So you have the ticket or you have the reference number. You have both them, okay? You have it saved in your phone maybe. So, of course, you can still ride the plane. The only time that you can't ride a plane is if you don't have the ticket or the um, reference numbers. So this is the time that the expression using the or operator, right? This is the OR operator. The logical OR operator will give out a false value. So from these things, you can now treat this one as your truth table. This is what we call a truth table. It doesn't matter what the left is. It doesn't matter what the right is. What matters is what is the final Boolean value, whether the left is false or the right is true or false. Okay, so this is your um, guide. If the left is false and the right is true, the answer is true. Vice versa is true. If both is true, it's true. If both is false, it's false. Okay, you don't have to memorize this one because you're actually using this every day in your life. All right, you just have to realize it. So, A, is John coming to the party, or is he? Wait, that's wrong. Mm, okay, I'm still thinking of an example. Um, okay, let's say for example for driver's license, right? So, um, let's say you were stopped over by a police, right? They're gonna ask license and registration. Okay. Now, at this time, we're not using the or operator. The police is asking you for license and registration. Okay. Now, because both of them are part of the logical operators, or and not. Now, for the and, it goes the same way, but the only difference is that you have to flip everything. Okay. Because when you think about it, the or, right? um, when does it become true? If you take a look at this one, it becomes true whenever um, either the left or the right side of the expression is true. The only time that it will become false is if both of them are false. Okay? The and is different. The and operates in the opposite. The only time that it becomes true if both the left and the right is true. Okay, now remember my example, license and registration. Okay, so the police is asking for license and registration. Okay, both these things must be present in order for this to become true. Otherwise, you would be given a ticket by the police, right? But we're just focusing on logic for now. Okay, now if either of those things is false or you don't have it, it will become false. The entire expression will become false. Okay, so it's exactly the same thing as this, but we're just gonna change true, right? Um, let's separate them here. So the same thing, gonna copy all of it. Sorry, y, z, it's not working. Okay, here. This is an and. This is an and. So the only time that the and will become true is if both of them are present or both of them are true. This one is false. Alright, so now this makes sense, right? This is our truth table. Now this makes much more sense because it also applies to what works in real life, right? So, license and registration, right? Okay, what other examples? Um, you need to be 18 and you need to have an ID in order to enter some certain establishments, or you need to have a degree and also a license in order to work for a certain company, right? So those are just examples that I can think of at the top of my head for these things. Okay, the last one is not. So the not is actually quite simple. It's just the opposite. So from exactly how we use not in real life, that's also how it works in programming. So you're gonna say not. Um, in essence, it works like this. So if you say not true, the result will be false. Okay, and then the opposite is also the same. Not false is equals to true. It will just give you the opposite. So if you're saying like what examples can I think of in real life? So not uh, so if you're gonna say, are you not 18? Right? So if you are 18, wait, are you not 18? Okay, so let's say for age, right? Let's say your age is uh, 18, right? So you're gonna say, are you not greater than or equal to 18? The answer would be, wait. I think I'm using it correctly. Uh, okay, apologies. Syntax are advanced syntax, right? So, okay. So age, right? Um, sorry, is age greater than or equal to 18? So are you not, right? This is like, are you not over or exactly 18? So that's the question that I'm trying to pose. And it's false, right? Because the age that I have here, I'm actually 18 years old. So that's why it will um, return return false, right? So I hope this makes sense because you're asking if you're greater than or equal to 18, which is true, right? But from the question here, are you not over or exactly 18? Okay, which is false because you are 18, right? I hope I'm making sense here. Okay, so it gets confusing once you equate things with true or false, but this is how you are gonna translate this question to into code. Okay, all right. So we're done with the Boolean data type comparisons, Boolean expressions, and the logical expressions. Okay, we now have the truth table for how this works. Now we can start using the if else, and the if elif else for decision making in programs. All right, now this is where indentation comes in handy as well. Okay, if we were to go create, apologies for this one, I'm not really sure what's happening with my Jupyter notebook. Okay, so if works exactly like this. The syntax is very simple. You start with the word if, followed by a condition, whatever that condition is. This will evaluates to true or false. Okay, now you follow that one with a colon. After that, you press a tab key. Sorry, it's not tabbing, and I don't know why. I'll just simulate it with a spacebar. Okay, you press a tab key to indicate the code that's underneath if the condition is true. The first thing that you see here, if the condition is true, it will run this code. Condition if true. Next is you have an else, right? And this will run if the condition is false. All right. Now the condition that is trying to evaluate is the one here. Okay. We're gonna do this one again later. So what about elif? So elif is used for more things to check before going to the else, right? Like if condition 1 is true, it will run this code. If condition 2 is true, then it will run this code. Condition 2 is true, then it will run this code. But we're not going to declare if twice. In fact, if the question is related, right, we're going to use an elif on that one, okay, instead of another if. So that's why it looks like this. All right, so if, elif, and then else. You can have as many elif as you want depending on your requirements for the question that you're asking. Okay, all right, so I hope that makes sense. Each one of these things also needs to end with a colon for Python to understand that you're using the if condition. All right, now let's have a question, right? Let's start with a question and then um, proceed with translating it into code. All right, now let's start with let's go back to the driver thing. All right, so um, we're not gonna we're not gonna combine for now, so with the logical expressions um, to avoid confusion. So let's start with um, do you have a license? Okay, next is if you don't have a license, then um, all right, so you're gonna say it's gonna be a yes or no, right? So pretend that we don't have one. So let's have another condition like, do you have a license? No. So the police will ask you, do you have registration for this car? Registration for this car. All right. Lastly, you're gonna say, no, I don't have registration for this car. You're just gonna pretend, okay, for now. So to go through with all the possible possibilities, right? And then at the very end, then this is the else part where everything is false. Then the police can say that since you don't have them both, have them both, you will get a ticket. Ticket. Sorry, ticket. Okay, let's have this scenario in our head, right? So we're gonna convert this one into code. Okay, so let's start with the things that we need. Okay, so it's trying to check license. Okay, so license, we'll have this one as true. How about registration? Registration, we'll have this one as false for now. Okay, we can change that one later. Now let's convert the entire scene with all the possibilities into an if, elif, else um, block of code. So if license, right, this is a condition that we're trying to check, right? So we're trying to check if license is um, equal to true, right? Like if you were to write this one down, you would say if license is equals to true, but you don't actually need to do it like this. Why? Because the value for license is already true. So you don't need to evaluate this one anymore, right? The only time that you would need to compare is if you were trying to check whether something uh, is true or not, right? But this is already true or false value, so you can just put it like that directly. If license, if you have a license, then this is what we will do. What we will do, we can print. Let's say the police will say, "Okay, you can go." Okay. Now, if you don't have it, right? So let's say the first condition is false. You're gonna say elif, and then how about registration? Now, registration is also a true or false, so we can just go as is like that. And then we can say that the police will also say, okay, you can um, go ahead. Okay, so let's just make the output a bit different for us to differentiate them. Okay, and last but not the least, else, right? Else is reserved when both the first and second condition, or as many else as you can think of, right, becomes false. So the else is where um, it ultimately ends if nothing of the conditions becomes true. So this is where you end up with. You're gonna say, I'm gonna have to give you a ticket. Okay, so that is how decision making works in Python. All right, so we have license is true. Let's see the output. So it's gonna say, okay, you can go. So Python will see that this is true, and it will automatically go to the code that belongs to this group. All right, so it will go to this line of code. After that, it will skip everything else because this is just one entire block. It will skip everything else because this is already true. It will go directly to the next line. So in order for us to see that this is the next line. Okay, so as you can see, it didn't have to go through here to the elif or the else. It goes directly here to the this is the next line. So after this, right, it already sees that it's true. So this entire block is done. It goes directly to line 19. All right. If we were to reverse them, say this is false and this is true, run the code, what will it will say now that okay, you can go ahead, which is our output here. Okay, so uh, to Python it says, okay, license is false. I'm gonna have to skip the code that belongs to this group, which is this one. Okay, I'm gonna go directly to the next condition. Is the registration true? And um, as you can see here, it's true. Okay, I'm gonna run the code that belongs to this group, which is this code. Okay, take note, it doesn't have to be just one line of code. Okay, again, grouping is indicated by the indentation. So you can have as many things. You can repeat this one as many times as you like, or any other additional code that you need. Like let's say for example, you just wanted it to be printed 4 times. Okay, you can do that one. All right, because all of these lines of code, it's not stopping. All of these things below belong to this group. All right. So Python has to finish all of these things, running all of these lines of code for this condition. All right. Now, if both of them are false, all right, it will go directly to else, right? Because you're gonna see, okay, this is false, not gonna run this. This is false, not gonna run these lines of code. We're gonna go to the else and then print. I'm gonna have to give you a ticket, and then go directly to the next line. Okay, that's how uh, the if, elif, and else block work for decision making, right? So we're just using license and registration, which are already false, true or false values by default. What if you have expressions, right? So let's say age, for example. You have age is equals to 18, right? So if you're going to use comparison operators this time, so this is the time where you have to indicate comparison operators. Let's say if age is greater than 18, all right? Now, as you know, this will be evaluated into true or false, right? So if this is true, then it will print this one. If it's false, then it will go to the next condition. Okay. So is the age less than greater than 18? less than 30. All right, let's go with that. If the age is less than 30, you can go ahead. Okay, this doesn't really make sense at this point. I'm just trying to show you guys um, another condition that it should check, right? And then else, of course, if both of these conditions are false. So if you're over 18, you can go, but if you're not under, so it doesn't make sense, right? Because if you're over 18, then it will always run this code, but it will never run this code because this is always going to be true. If I were to say 5, my age is 5, this is gonna return false, but for this it's gonna return true. So it doesn't make sense, right? Um, but the point that I'm trying to make is that you're using expressions here, and also you're using comparisons to evaluate the entire thing into either true or false. That's the ultimate goal here. Okay? And yeah, I think that's all for the if else, and the if else conditions. Um, okay. Yeah, let's see. It's almost time. 5, so that's good. We're almost done. We're down to our last two parts. So for loop and the while loop. All right. Break and continue. We can do this one next time, but they fit into either loops or the if and the elif things. All right. So, all right. Loops. Now, why do we need loops? Okay. So, we're gonna have to apologies. Question, the number makes a text, not a command, right? The number?
The hashtag, I mean. But
Oh,
I get
yes,
it.
yeah. Sorry, I did not notice your question. All right, so the hashtag here is actually what we call a comment. So Python will skip all the comments, right? So they're used for two things. One is writing notes for other developers, and the other one is temporarily disabling lines of code like this one. If I were to do like this at the beginning, it will disable the whole line of code. Python will recognize that one as something to skip. All right. I'm just using it in this case to write notes and skip lines. But in reality, what you will see is it's used to describe uh, sections of your code. Okay. Um, yeah, and that's something that you should practice as well. Writing good comments. It's actually very much appreciated in this career. All right. Um, they like developers and programmers that knows how to write good comments because that means you understand what you're trying to do, and if you can explain it properly to someone else, that means um, you can work more efficiently in a team, right? Because odds are you're gonna be in a team when you are. It doesn't have to be a data scientist. Any programming work, it will almost always have to be in a team, because the amount of task that you're gonna do, the amount of codes that you're gonna write is too big. Okay, but from my experience, right, it's almost always more reading than coding per se. There's more time that you have to read than you have to code. So, yeah, just wanted to share that one to you guys. All right, let's go to the for loop. If I can have this one fixed, it just keeps on stuttering. Uh, Come on. All right. Okay, there we go. Now, the reason why we have loops is because we we want to repeat certain actions or events, right? So, what is an example for this? Logins, right? It will keep asking you when if you have typed in the wrong password, it's gonna keep asking you like, wrong password, please input again. Wrong username, please input it again, or something like that, right? Or wrong username or password. It doesn't tell you which one is wrong, so it will just keep on asking you in a loop until you get a successful response. All right, so let's try and simulate that one. Right, we're gonna combine everything that we know so far. Okay, now, um technically, for loop and while loop works the same. The only difference is that for loop um stops at a certain point. It stops when um, the loop that you're trying to do runs out. Like if you want to run a loop for 5 times, it will stop after 5 times. Okay, if that makes sense. Now the while loop, the other difference is that for the while loop, it will never stop until a certain condition is met. All right, that's the difference between them. But strictly speaking, you can actually make a for loop work like a while loop as well if you're playing around with the conditions. All right. Now, let's take a look at the for loop first. Now, the for loop has this kind of format. So for, right? After that, you format, sorry, syntax. So you start with the word for, and then you write a variable, a temporary variable that will take in whatever um, iterable object you have after it. So for x in y, for example, okay. Now the y is the iterable object. The keyword here is iterable. The moment that you see that one in a description of any kind of object that you see in the future, you can assume that you can use it directly like this in a for loop. And you can access each data that is inside of y one by one, right? And it will be saved to x. Okay, so if you have, like, let's say the value inside for y has the following. You have um, a list of fruits, for example. So you have apple. Inside of y you have apple, you have orange, you have kiwi. I don't know if that's a fruit. Kiwi, you have grapes, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is your list. This is your list of fruits. All right, this is an iterable object because it's a group of things separated by comma in this sense, right? Now, this exactly works the same way as what we have list in real life, okay? Now, it's an iterable object. It's grouped into one, right? But you can access each data one by one. So, in this sense, if you were to uh, if this is y, then what is x? So in each loop, right, in each run of the code, if I were to say print x, whatever is in y at that time, it will print it one by one. So it starts with apple. So on the output, it will say apple. And then on the next line, it will say orange. And then on the next line, it will say kiwi, and so on and so forth. So I hope you guys are understanding it. So this is your list, right? Left to right. The for loop is trying to access the value in y one by one. So it starts with apple, pass it to x, and then we can do with x whatever we want to do. We want to do with x. Next, after that loop, all right. So since this is a loop, Python will see that okay. After this, Okay, I haven't gone over everything on the list. I need to go back here at the top and go to the next one. So apple is done. I'm going to go to orange, pass it to X, and then run the code that belongs to this group, to this for loop. All right, take note of the indentation. So that's why we will see the output orange on the next part, and then Python will say, hey, I'm still not yet done with the list, so it goes back to line 3. Okay, until everything is done and hits the last one, which is grapes. All right, so let's say it will output grapes here at the end. It will see grapes. Okay, and Python say, okay, I think I'm done with the list. I'm gonna have to go to the next line after this for loop. So if you have another print statement here, which says the loop is done, your output should look like that as well. The loop, the loop is done. All right, that is how your output should look like. Okay, now just for the purpose of this lesson, right? Let's have an example of our list, right? So let's say our y is exactly these things. So it just so happens that if you're creating a list in Python, this is what it actually looks like. But we're gonna discuss this one soon, all right? I want you guys to focus on the for loop, all right? So this is our list. This is our things, group of things stored into one container, all right? We're gonna go over our container one by one in this for loop. So I'm gonna run the code. Sorry. Did I forget something? Apple is not defined. Sorry. Can I do a shortcut? No, it doesn't work like that. Sorry. So it recognizes the apple, orange, kiwi, and grapes as variables. So I have to declare them like this. All right. Now, exactly as how I had written them before here, that is also how the output looks like. See? So it's going over the list one by one and showing them on the output like this. Okay, and at the very end, when the list is done, it has gone over the list. It then goes to the next line of code, which is the loop is done. Okay, all right. Um, all right. So it actually took me a while. Right. I think this is because we got delayed earlier due to my connection error. Um, yeah, so I guess we'll have to stop here for today. But basically, the while loop works the same way as the for loop. All right, it just has to, it just waits for a certain condition to be done. So, just a quick example: the while loop. Um, the while loop works like this. So while x is less than 18, for example, so I'm using a comparison operator, right? X is um, it's waiting for x to go over 18. So let's start with x is equals to 0, for example, right? Um, and then you put a colon here, and automatically when you press enter, Python will add a tab uh, so that the next line of code would belong to the while loop. All right. Now, in order for this to end, for this while loop to end, x has to be greater than 18. Okay. So while this is false, it will keep on running the code here. Okay. So run, for example, run, print, run. Let's try 5. Okay. But if you're just gonna use print run, x, the value of x will never increase. It will always remain at 0. So what do? You add a code inside the while loop that will increase the value of x. So x is equals to x plus 1. You're going to add 1 to x every time the loop is running. Okay? So, uh, okay, print after the while. Okay, so now it should print run 5 times before it stops. So if I were to run this code, if I can get it to steady, all right. Uh, okay, there. It's not running. Okay, there we go. So, as you can see, it prints run 5 times and then run after the while afterwards, okay? Exactly like how the for loop works. The only difference is that it doesn't depend on an iterable object. It depends on a condition, this one, okay? So while the value of x is less than 5, it's gonna keep on running the code inside of this group. All right. Now x starts at 0, so each time that Python sees this line of code, the value of x increases. So it goes to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then finally it will be greater than 5, and then it will stop. Okay. In fact, you can even print the x value here to see that it is increasing in value. So if you do it like that, you can see that it starts from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then at 5, it's not anymore less than 5, so this will become true. The moment that the condition becomes true, it exits out of the loop and goes directly to the next line of code. Alright? So that's essentially it. Yeah, so it's unfortunate that we weren't able to do the exercises. Um, I think I'm just gonna have to send these things to you via LMS. Okay, so I'm gonna post these questions here, right, as an assignment for you guys. Um, Answer it whenever you're available, okay? And then show me the solutions that you have next week. All right. So just like our exercise earlier, try to avoid using um, AI for now or searching for the answers online. Try to solve it yourself. All right. Um, you can search for other functions if you want that you think is applicable to your solution, but try to avoid and look for the solution per se. Okay. Um, but if you're like spending almost 1 hour on it, trying to solve the question, then I guess it's okay to look for a solution. I think it's counterintuitive if you spend um, 4 or 5 hours just for a question, where in fact you can just learn it on your own. You can learn it by searching for the solution online. Okay, so what I'm trying to train in you guys is to think like a programmer, right? That's what I'm trying to do. With that, I think we can end our session now. I'll upload the PowerPoint, this one, and the exercise, and my notes here, and also the recording as soon as I can. Everything will be available on the LMS. And yeah, I think that's it for our second session. I'll see you guys next week. All right? Thank you for participating and listening.
Thank you po.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.